Hey, I'm Lorie Clenney. I'm the Director of Student Services for the Early County School System. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. We decided to put together a series of tips for emotional well-being. Over the last year, we have faced new changes and stressful times. We hope that these tips will help our students and family better adjust to these new changes and help them in stressful times. Last session, we talked about the consequences of being unmindful. This week, I really wanted to focus on giving you guys some activities that you can practice to become more mindful. And remember, mindfulness is all about giving your full attention to what's going on right now in the here and now, just your full attention to whatever you're doing. It takes practice. I know it sounds like it may be simple just to stay in the moment and focus on what's going on then, but if you're not paying attention to your thoughts, they may wander to the past or the present or the future. And as stated in our first session, that there can be lots of emotional consequences that come along with letting your thoughts wander from the present. So the first activity that I do with individuals when I'm working with them to try to practice mindfulness is usually just a breathing, practice it utilizing breathing. Typically, I just get my phone and set the timer for even just 1 minute, sometimes 2, but usually we start small with 1. I just encourage the student or individual that I'm working with just to breathe as they normally would. Just, not even necessarily taking deep breaths, just breathe like they normally would for that whole minute, and to just really focus on how it feels to breathe, or just notice anything about their breathing. For 1 minute, focus on nothing but that. And just encourage them to pay attention to their thoughts so that they can notice if they wander. So we do that for 1 minute. I tell them that if they do notice that their thoughts have wandered during the minute, to just bring it back to the present, or try to bring it back to the present. So once the timer on my phone goes off, then I ask some reflection questions. I'll say, were you able to focus on your breath for the whole minute? And sometimes the individual says yes, sometimes no. If they say no, I will ask further questions and say, well, did you notice where your thoughts wandered? Did it go to the past or the present? And sometimes they're able to answer, sometimes they're not. They just remembered that their attention drifted from the breathing exercise during that minute. And then after that, sometimes we'll go into another exercise. I have these bubbles. Any age can use these activities to practice mindfulness, but you can also just practice mindfulness doing any everyday activity. When you're first beginning to practice, you want to practice with an activity that's more enjoyable or even fun to you, not necessarily a task that you're really not into. So if you're into listening to music, you may want to practice just listening to your favorite song and trying to notice if your mind wanders or drifts while you're listening to the song, or if you can truly just focus on listening to the music and everything about what you're hearing during the song for a whole minute, or even the duration of the song. So I also have bubbles. These are actually scented bubbles. You of course don't have to have scented, but it's just another piece that whenever I'm working with individuals or a student, if I'm having them blow the bubbles, I'll have them take an inhale, and as they exhale, blow a bubble, or try to. Sometimes this happens, or a lot of times it does with me. So I'll encourage them to take an inhale and then blow the bubble. Notice the formation of the bubble while it's forming, and then even notice how and when and if it detaches, and watch it float away. And even smelling. Let's see, what does this one smell like? I don't really know. It says it's scented, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe lemon. So I would ask them to even notice what they smell.
Actually, I did this recently with a student, and we both had our own bubbles, and we were blowing for the minute, and I didn't even get one bubble the whole minute, but the student had bubbles the whole time. And when I asked the reflection questions, the answers were a lot different, where in the breathing exercise, the student, her thoughts drifted from the present. But when we were doing something like blowing the bubbles, she was able to keep her attention with the activity for the whole entire minute. So that was really cool. And then another one that I like to use is Play-Doh. So here the student or individual is encouraged to just play with the Play-Doh for 1 minute and try to keep the attention on the Play-Doh, you know, how it feels. Again, this is scented. So even noticing how it smells, which regular Play-Doh smells too, but this is green apple. It's actually a pretty strong scent. But this is another activity that I've found that students are able to really keep their attention on the activity and practice mindfulness with. So I would like to encourage you to practice mindfulness, choose an activity, maybe one that I just talked about, just breathing or blowing bubbles, playing with Play-Doh, listening to music, or even going outside and going on a nature walk, just noticing what's around you. Those are all great activities for getting started with keeping your mind in the here and now and the present moment and practicing mindfulness.
Thank you for joining today's Wellness Tips. We hope that you found this to be helpful, and we hope that you stay tuned for our upcoming sessions.